Thank you guys for joining today. We're so excited to introduce our new partner, Formstack, and the various opportunities available for so many of you, our clients. We reached out to Formstack a few months ago, and we were needing some solutions for ourselves and for our clients, and quickly realized this alliance that could form and the numerous possibilities between our companies. Taylor, if you'll switch to the next slide, we'll go into the agenda. So for the agenda today, we're going to do a brief overview of SeedSpark and who we are. And then the Formstack team will talk about who Formstack is, what their capabilities are, and go through a few use cases at the very beginning. Then we'll move into one of the main reasons SeedSpark and Formstack formed this awesome alliance, and that is the possibilities between Formstack and the integrations with Microsoft. So we'll talk through that and a few use cases there as well, and some of the opportunities that are available. And then we'll end the presentation with a more technical demonstration of how this works and an awesome conversation between our two technical experts on the call, Brandon and Brandon. So yeah, and then we'll finish off with a Q&A. But if anybody has any questions during this call, I just wanted to make note, if anyone has any questions during this call, please feel free to send those through the chat. I know that Sam will actually be monitoring that, and we can ask or answer any questions anyone has. So just a quick introduction. I'm Addie Emery. I'm the Director of Client Development at SeedSpark. We also have on the call from the SeedSpark team Ann Seymour, who's our new Director of Managed Services, and then our lead application developer, Brandon Batten, who's really kind of helped form this partnership with Formstack and SeedSpark. So we'll go into the next slide, Taylor. So SeedSpark was founded in 2006, and we started building mobile applications for BlackBerry devices when those were a thing. By 2010, SeedSpark quickly merged with our CEO's other IT firm, and the company evolved into a business that not only provided IT managed services, application development, and digital marketing, but really became a leader in the small to medium-sized business technology space for technology consulting. And at SeedSpark, we like to think of technology as a strategy, not just a tool that you can use. Our purpose is not to simply implement technology at a company and then leave the client completely, but to improve their business and to grow their bottom line. As we look to optimize businesses, SeedSpark created what we call the transformation continuum. This is our holistic approach to the client experience. So it combines all of our offerings and leads clients through digital transformation. It's a constantly evolving process for SeedSpark and for the client. And to provide the best consultation through that process, we developed a tool also called Belief. It stands for Learn, Educate, Assess, and Formulate. It's a set of standards that we run all of our clients through to determine the next steps in their transformation roadmap. And it asks the questions, do you have phishing protection? How quickly do you get invoices out after a service has been rendered? How does the customer request an order from you? And questions like that. And what we're trying to get to is the heart of how a business functions and operates, and not just to bring them to standardization, compliance, and security, but again, make their businesses better. And because Leaf is a tool that complements the transformation continuum, it's also constantly being assessed, updated, and worked on with the client. And for us, digital transformation is a continual process, as I've mentioned before. Once clients start seeing the data in their hands, what we really see on our side is that manual processes are being automated, their bottom line starts to grow, and this really impacts culture throughout the organizations that we deal with. And that's a really exciting thing for us, and it's definitely a value add in the relationship with SeedSpark and our clients. As many of you know, SeedSpark has grown exponentially, and as we've grown, we have worked to ensure that we align ourselves with the right vendors and partners to make this happen. Microsoft has for a long time been the catalyst for so many of the efficiencies we've been able to bring to our clients. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But when we met Formstack and found out what they were doing in the technology space and the various integrations they had, especially what they most recently launched, which was with Microsoft, we found that the synergy and opportunities between the two companies were nearly limitless. And we're so excited. Again, I know I mentioned this earlier, just so excited about this partnership and for you all to learn more about what our companies are doing together and specifically what Formstack can do for your business. Taylor, if you'll skip to the next slide, I'm going to go ahead and let Zach and the rest of his team speak more to who Formstack is and who they are as a company. So I'll go ahead and.
Thanks so much, Addie. Zach Pines, head of partnerships at Formstack here. The Formstack SeedSpark Microsoft partnership has gotten off to a fantastic start here in 2021. I'm joined by three colleagues whose voices you'll hear over the next hour and a bit. Gabe, who heads up our technology partnerships and has been a huge part of the Microsoft Power Automate launches that we're talking about today. John Albertini, who works very closely with our SeedSpark colleagues day to day, and Brandon Bilstrin, one of the two Brandons that you'll hear from today on the call. John is working with SeedSpark across some different verticals. John and I are going to share more about Formstack to provide some context to folks who are not familiar with Formstack and let you know some of the typical use cases we're seeing and even share a quick demo. With that said, I'm going to introduce my colleague, John, to jump on. Hey, John.
Hey, Zach. Thank you for that introduction. And of course, Addie, thank you as well for that introduction. We are extremely excited to partner with such an amazing organization like SeedSpark. Their focus on really improving their customers' businesses really speaks to our customer-centric approach as well. And so realistically, Formstack, our goal here is to empower any business to collect and leverage data. But what really does that actually mean? So let's kind of break that down a little bit. So what we found over the years is that collecting data now is easy. Quite frankly, you can pick up your phone and your data is all located essentially on one location there. And there are numerous locations in which that data can be collected. But what we're finding is that connecting that data, especially within your business processes, is difficult. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of development work from an IT perspective. And realistically, it's inefficient. Next slide, please. So what we're noticing in most organizations is that they're really siloed across their different verticals or across their different departments, and that ranges both on the small business level all the way up to the enterprise level. Take the medical industry, for example. Many large hospital systems have multiple areas of record for their customer data, whether that be their EMR, their CRM, for that such as Salesforce, their email servers, whether that be that Outlook or that Gmail, and of course, even those old Excel spreadsheets and paper applications. The issue really here is that none of those systems, they don't talk to each other. Many struggle with data entry, and some require extensive work to maintain. In fact, next slide. So in fact, what we're finding is that companies lose, 20 to 30% in revenue every year due to those inefficiencies. And that was actually done by an independent IDC research firm. But just imagine that, on the small business level. If you're an organization making 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year, and you're losing 20 to 30% in revenue, what is that preventing you from the ability to do? Those goals that you're looking to accomplish at the end of the year, why are you struggling now? Is it because of your technology? So how can we, make that situation better? And what we're looking at is a better way to connect that data across multiple systems in a seamless workflow. That is where Formstack comes into play. So Formstack isn't a tool that's going to replace all of your current systems and processes. It's a tool to be used alongside of them. Our goal is to make you more efficient by connecting and automating that data. to empower you through the use of that data to make business decisions, and ultimately to give your team members and customers a better user experience. So how do we do that? What we have is the Formstack Platform. So it is a workplace productivity solution that empowers anyone in your organization to digitize what matters, automate those workflows, and fix processes all without code. Starting off with that Forms product, this is actually our first product that began around 15 years ago. Realistically, the goal here, of course, is to create those easy, beautiful surveys, complex forms, collect online payments, and manage any type of data collection. From there, we have our document generation builder. It allows you to create beautiful documents and merge them and store them depending on your delivery methods in your own personal systems of record. And last, we have that sign platform, allowing you to collect secure digital signatures that are compliant in numerous industries on any device. So that can be your iPhone, your Android device, your laptop, your iPad. It really does give flexibility to those users to collect those signatures. But
John, I was going to jump in a couple of things to emphasize here. That center of that graphic, it's about the products that you're using and getting more out of those systems, having more efficient processes. Of course, the topic we're talking about today, very much Microsoft, Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft SharePoint, wrapping Formstack around those products to create something even better. Another really important point about Formstack is data capture, document generation, digital signature. These are all modules that work together. They work independently. So a partner like SeedSpark can solve everything from really quick, rapid solutions like getting a digital signature process set up in minutes to far more elaborate digital transformation and business process improvement initiatives.
Absolutely, Zach, and that's a great point. Our integrations, really allow for customers to automate that data collection into the right location, regardless of that system of record, and especially when we're talking about Microsoft, having the ability to automate that information, whether that be into the Dynamics or Teams, SharePoint, just across the board, depending on how individual businesses are already using those systems, it just makes things a lot more efficient for those businesses. And realistically, what we're finding is, this situation doesn't just impact, one or two industries. It's actually impacting all industries across the board. And that's why our focus has come to be, across all industries, because we found that we have customers, from construction to manufacturing to healthcare to education, and even nonprofits and Fiserv. So, before going really into that demo, we wanted to take a few moments to discuss a little bit more about those use cases, starting with education. So education, as you can imagine, 20 years ago, everything was paper-based. They were collecting all their applications paper-based. But nowadays, they're, especially with what's going on with COVID-19, they're looking for ways to digitize that process. And so what we've been able to do, next slide, for example, is digitize that scholarship process so that it's streamlined. So that when a student goes on to apply for that scholarship, that application goes to the correct person. It notifies the correct people in those scholarship departments and allows them to make the correct decision based on that information they collected, all without code and all within a rapid manner. Next slide. So as an example, the University of Michigan actually used us to automate their visa letter requests. Previously, it was taking them, 2 to 4 weeks to get those requests turned around. And by automating everything within their systems, they were able to get that turnaround time to a day. Just imagine the impact that has on not only their employees, but also on those students to be able to get that information rapidly and, book those trips that they need to book so they can attend those events.
John, I'll jump in to bring some of these customer quotes to life. Cal, who is with Azusa Pacific University, his perspective after life with Formstack. We knew Formstack would be a good solution because it's so easy to use. It's something our staff could build with limited knowledge of technology and minimal interaction with IT. If changes are to be made in the future, they can easily make them without having to contact IT. So it was taking those kind of core systems, wrapping Formstack around it, enabling their team to capture data more efficiently. And that's the impact that it's had for Cow at Azusa Pacific.
Absolutely, Zach. And that's what we're finding across numerous industries as well. So as we switch into that financial services industry, think about every time you've had to go to a bank to open up a new account or apply for a loan or apply for a line of credit. We're able to digitize that process as well and make it a lot more efficient. Next slide, please. So this was, of course, an example of that loan application process in which banks were able to streamline that small business loan, create a new customer record within their CRM, which in this situation was Salesforce, and then automate those notification emails and approval processes to eventually generate those contracts needed for those loans if those loans were approved, all in one seamless workflow. And why this is so important are examples with Tri-Counties Bank. With everything that happened with COVID-19, banks and financial institutions, just like other industries, had to rapidly evolve. And in the case of Tri-Counties Bank, they didn't have a way to accept all of the loans that they were getting for payment protection programs. So they needed a better method of doing it. So they chose to use Formstack to collect that data and build out that loan process. And they were able to build that out within a week. That is the flexibility of this tool. It really allows you to rapidly deploy and rapidly change your organization when you need to, versus having to wait or really develop that code behind everything.
Yeah, John, this was a customer, Todd, who I spoke to right after that project. When we were getting debriefed on it, he was certainly proud of what he was able to deliver to the business during that PPP loan situation, and in his words, doing things that wouldn't have been possible without Formstack. The quote that he said to me at that time: "Formstack's a Swiss Army knife that helps me solve problems. When the challenge of quickly creating a digital PPP loan application came up, I was ready and didn't need an army of developers."
And that's powerful, Zach. I mean, just think about it, especially when you're talking about larger businesses. They have numerous developers on staff that a lot of times have to build out these custom forms and maintain them from a long-term perspective. And that's expensive. The maintenance behind it is extremely expensive when you're paying a developer to do that. And so that's why a lot of times these businesses are choosing us, because they have that ability to not have to worry about that, to take something off of their IT managers or IT department's plate, and allow us to help them make their organization a lot more efficient. And as we switch into HR, really that process, as most of us have come to be a part of, it can be cumbersome, especially when there are numerous documents that need to be filled out. Zach, I don't know if you remember when you onboarded, but I know when I onboarded previously to coming to Formstack, everything was paper-based. I had to print and sign out all those documents and then send them back to the organization I was working for. And it just wasn't efficient. I mean, the amount of time that was wasted getting those documents into the right locations, it just created a poor experience. And that also led to the extension of the time frame for which my onboarding took place. Versus if they can get that information in a day, they can bring me on within a week. But if it takes them 2 to 3 weeks to get it, how much longer is that onboarding experience?
And John, it's more than just that, which you're 100% correct, but then there's ongoing HR processes. There's, hey, at the 3-month mark, we need to collect this information. Every year we've got to do this. It's a continuous process, and it is very much about process and collecting information from employees on a regular basis.
Absolutely, Zach. If you want to jump to the next one for one more, Taylor. Perfect. So I wanted to stress, CleanMark HR, they actually created a hiring request form through us as well, which eliminated nearly 2,000 hard to manage email threads. Could you imagine having to go through 2,000 email threads to figure out what's going on, with your employees at a given time? That makes things difficult. That makes it inefficient, and it's taking time away from your employees for them to do their actual responsibilities, because they're focusing on that data. And instead, they were able to work with us within an hour and get everything up and running the way they needed to. That is efficiency. Next slide.
So Josh from CleanMark said, after that experience, Formstack started as a way for me to easily build lead gen forms. So it was a marketing use case for the HR team to collect. And today, nearly every single department uses it to capture data.
Absolutely. And that's we see that, tends to be organization wide, where, they'll come in with one use case that they're just looking to maybe make their marketing department more efficient or their sales department more efficient with that contract process. But what they realize is it's scalable. They can start with that one department and then build that across multiple departments and really make their workflows streamlined and seamless. And, there's no bigger challenge that we found than was within healthcare. Especially from a patient intake perspective. So with, once again, the rise of COVID-19, there's been a lot of, eliminating that person-to-person contact and finding ways to do intake without having to have that person in the office delivering a form or emailing back and forth. So what we were able to do rather rapidly is deploy a QR code with our forms so that, patients could take a picture of that QR code. It would bring up the onboarding, a patient onboarding application, and they could fill out that onboarding form, and that form would get pushed directly into their EMR for that patient record, thereby saving the doctor's time and money, the nursing staff time and money as well, but also really creating a better experience for that patient. Zach, I don't know about you, but I hate going to the doctor. It's not my favorite thing to do. And the last thing I want to do is wait in a waiting room for 15, 20, 30 minutes to fill out a form while the doctor gets to me. I want to arrive, get it taken care of, and get out of there as soon as possible. And quite frankly, the doctors and healthcare professionals, they feel the same way. They want to get you in to get you taken care of and get you home as soon as possible back to your families. So we found ways to really streamline that process from a HIPAA compliant manner and allow them to collect that data.
I'm with you on that, John. And HIPAA compliant, great point. Formstack, HIPAA compliant, Power Automate, HIPAA compliant. So opens up a lot of opportunities for healthcare businesses or businesses who are managing healthcare information in the era of COVID.
Absolutely. And realistically, the thing that sets it apart is just that ability to be agile and flexible when needed. Advent Health was able to launch 400 plus HIPAA compliant forms in a day. Imagine trying to do that with paper. Imagine trying to do that where you have to code every single one of those forms individually, or really put your IT staff in a pickle or bind trying to get that taken care of. That's why a lot of those organizations choose to come to Formstack as well.
Yeah, and Dr. Chris from Indiana Health Group, using Formstack really reduces the number of potential points of failure when bringing new patients in. It increases the speed and efficiency and cuts down on the duplication of data entry for both patients and staff members. So yeah, be thinking about data collection, be thinking about multi-step processes, how data is getting into key systems, making it more efficient for your teams. And John, I think you've got a really nice healthcare demo to bring that to life as kind of the final piece here of the Formstack introduction.
I do, Zach. I do. Let me get that all pulled up for you guys.
To paint the picture, John's got a children's hospital use case, a patient, think patient portal, think patient website with a patient registration process. John described kind of the old days, the before. Maybe this is paper-based, maybe I'm being forced to fill out forms in an office environment, or God forbid, fax them in or email them in. Now it's all digital. What does that look like with Formstack Forms, Formstack Documents, and Formstack Sign? John's going to give us a view of what that looks like.
Absolutely. You guys able to see everything on your end now? Just want to confirm.
We're seeing children's healthcare, John.
Perfect. So this is our children's health system demo. As you can imagine, it looks like many other hospital systems websites that you're seeing across the US and of course throughout the world as well. Within it, we have embedded a few of those Formstack forms to allow them to collect that data. So when a patient comes here and they're looking for their patient record and they need to register as a new patient, they go ahead and click down there to register. And it's going to bring up to their patient registration portal, allowing them to sign in with all that information. The cool thing about these forms as well is it does allow you to autofill. So you're not wasting time. If you have that information already stored in your system, it's going to pull it in directly into that form for you. And please don't judge me on my birthday. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit young, but it does allow you to collect that information as well. And what makes this, what differentiates us in this regard is really allowing customers to see information that's relevant for them. So of course you can do drop-down menus to decide which clinic location you want to go to as well, and the reasons for your visit. But the main thing here is we want to make sure that patients, customers, clients, they're not wasting time seeing things they have no interest in, or it's not relative for them. So as an example right here, it allows them to choose whether they need a translator. And if they need a translator, it's going to pop up with that what language is needed box. But if they decide they don't need a translator, that box is going to disappear right away. And that works in situations, when you're looking to collect, whether they smoke or other information like that, that may not be relevant to every person that's filling out this application, but only certain ones. It also allows for the upload of files and documents. So when I click there, it's going to bring me to this, and I can upload documents, I can upload pictures, and it'll allow me to, of course, add more logic, whether I need to add other family members to this initial intake. But I'm going to go ahead and submit this form. So once I've submitted this form, I'm actually going to receive an email from them letting me know to go ahead and sign this document from that intake. So when I get this email, I'm going to go ahead and review and sign. And like we said previously with that sign application, everything does render across different devices. So you can see this on your mobile device. You can see this on your iPad. And in many situations with our healthcare providers, they sometimes have to provide iPads for their patients to fill out this information. And this makes it a lot simpler. Or when their patients don't have that ability, they'll let them use their own phones to fill out that information and sign off on everything. So once they click that link, it does display up top here how many locations need to be signed. And as you slide through that document, you can see all that information was merged directly into that document, as well as that release for information and the area for me to sign. And once I click there, it's going to bring up that signature field. It does have the ability, of course, to draw that signature as well, and then go ahead and submit that document. Now, once that document is submitted, a few things are going to happen. The first thing is the patient is going to receive a copy of that document that looks like this in their own email box. The healthcare system is also going to receive a copy of that document in their email box, but they're also going to get that document delivered directly into their EHR or their EMR and their system as record as well. So this is a really good situation for organizations working in Dynamics, working in Teams and SharePoint, and wanting to really get that information to their correct system of record. This allows them to do that. So next, I want to give you guys just kind of an example, an idea of a little bit more around what the platform looks like on the back end of things. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know Brandon and Brandon at the end have a lot more information to cover, so I don't want to spend too much time. But I want to give you an idea of what the system actually looks like and how easy it is for your customers to work with it. Excuse me. So as an example, this is a bank application form. We've probably all seen this at one point in our life in which we had to fill out to apply for a new checking account, savings account, etc. This is for more of a small business situation. But this is the back of that Formstack platform. Everything in here is drag and drop. So it's easy. I can drag this right over and bring it into this field easily at any time. I'll give it a second. Sorry, the system is loading. And of course, I can remove it at any time as well. Excuse me, once doing it, everything like that, it does quickly render. So this is actually what that document looks like natively. As you can tell, there are differences. That CSS has changed, that you can change the color on that document. You can also add numerous pages to that document and allow customers and clients to save and resume on that functionality as well. From there, of course, we do have our document builder and document generation builder as well. Within this, you have options of either A, uploading a fillable document. So if you're already using that fillable PDF or that fillable Word document, we don't want you to have to reinvent that wheel. You're able to upload that and map out those merge fields to those fillable documents so that the data, can be merged directly into that document. You also have the ability with this deliver tab here to decide where all that information is going to go. Now, what makes that so important is this is what links those situations where you have multiple systems that need to collect that data. You're no longer siloed about having to enter data into just one solution and then copy and paste it into another. Now you can send it into numerous delivery points at a given time. And probably one of the best features that we get here, especially when we need to collect signatures, is the ability to wait for that document to be signed before the data is pushed into your system of record. So a lot of times, especially when you're doing an onboarding document, you need to have those signatures on those forms ahead of time. And this allows that delay allows that to occur and to happen for you guys as well. Excuse me. And then the last area I wanted to jump on, of course, is our Formstack Sign product. So our Formstack Sign product allows you to seamlessly upload documents as well. Now they can be documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, anything that you need to have signed. You can have that uploaded here and then sent off for signatures. Some of the areas that our customers really find valuable here, first of all, you're going to see is that ease of use. It is very similar to that form application where things are drag and drop. So as I add a participant, all I have to do is drag and drop where I need that person to sign and drag and drop that date field, and it's going to pull that information there when it goes out for signatures. What's great about this situation is, first of all, it's easy to use. Number two, you have the ability to send up for signatures both through email and text messaging. I don't know about you, Zach, but I know I don't check my email as much as I used to. But I always have my phone on me. So if I receive a text message, I'm probably going to take a look at it. And so when your customers need to get those contracts signed or those onboarding documents signed, they're going to get that rather rapidly and have the ability to go ahead and sign that. And then, of course, within this as well, you have the ability to make this into a template. So if you're receiving these documents, or if you're doing this situation numerous times throughout the day, you can make it a template where you can streamline that process versus having to sit there and drag and drop every single time. So I'm going to pause there. Actually, I'm pass that on to Zach now. Stop sharing.
Awesome demo, John. That's background on who's Formstack, product overview, the document generation, digital signature, data capture modules. We gave you a sense of verticals that we are working in. That's really just a sampling. I know throughout the session, you'll hear more from Anne and Gabe and Brandon on even other ideas. So we thank you, and I'm going to hand it off to our next set of speakers.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your presentation. One quick question I had for you guys. I know you guys were probably ready to be done with your section, but I know that in a lot of cases, your sign product can actually replace DocuSign. And John, in some of our conversations, you've told me about the cost savings there, and I just really want to make note of that because I love talking through this.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we do, or I would say DocuSign is probably one of our biggest competitors. As you can imagine, they are an industry leader as an e-signature platform, and they have an amazing product. So definitely want to congratulate them there. But in regards to pricing, especially in the small business and medium business spaces, we tend to see a difference in price of anywhere from 30 to 50% based on where DocuSign is usually located. And that tends to be a lot of a driving force from a small business and medium business perspective, because they're really looking at how they can maximize what they're putting their money into and maximize that investment. So they tend to choose us from that regard.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll jump into the next section. So Gabe, Ann, and I will be talking a little bit more about the Formstack and Microsoft integration. I mentioned earlier in this presentation that SeedSpark has long been touting Microsoft for a lot of our clients. And for so many of our clients, we led the charge in Office 365 email migrations. We moved on-prem servers to Azure or files to SharePoint, or we even migrated your old PBX phone systems to Teams phone systems. And so it's a really complex, great platform for so many things. Taylor, if you'll switch to the next slide, I think this next slide speaks perfectly to the why behind this shift and move, and why SeedSpark works to be the top Microsoft integrator in our space. And over the years, the Microsoft stack has been a major focus for our team, not just on the managed services side of the house, but also on the application development team. We really wanted to make sure we learn and understand and focus on what Microsoft is creating and how we can help our clients get to the next level. With 95% of Fortune 500 companies running on Azure, over 1 million businesses powered by 365, and of that, 625,000 businesses in the US alone on 365. These are just incredible, huge numbers, as you can see. And I think what Microsoft has done from a market share perspective, I mean, most everyone knows who Microsoft is. They haven't just built a system around trust and security, but also these numbers just really speak to the fact that Microsoft is only going to continue research and development, dumping those dollars on the hundreds of applications they're creating as part of the 365 suite. And as Microsoft continues to evolve and build out their portfolio, their products will only become more capable and provide continued efficiencies for businesses. So this is a really exciting piece of this for us. I love the stat down at the bottom right here that there's 45.3 million Microsoft subscribers. And those are individual users, guys. So they're part of businesses, or they may not be part of businesses. But I love that stat, simply because, again, kind of going back to the research and development dollars, Microsoft has the incentive to make these products a lot better and continue moving forward. So actually, just the other day, I was reading that Teams is about to get end-to-end encryption on meetings through Teams. That's a really big deal for a lot of companies where confidentiality, HIPAA compliance, et cetera, are valid concerns. And again, just speaks to the fact that they're continuing to dump dollars into their products and only make them better. And I think through COVID, a lot of us saw Teams get a lot better as well. Gabe, I would love for you to speak more to the opportunity that Formstack saw in Microsoft and speak to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Addie. So really, my role here at Formstack is to kind of manage the integrations that our products wrap around and look for new opportunities to build integrations. And when we looked at new integrations that we wanted to tap into for our current clients and future clients, the first thing we did is we surveyed our existing customers, because we always want to deliver more value and take their opinions into our roadmap. And when we asked them which integration they'd like for us to add, it was a resounding vote for Microsoft. We found that about 70% of our current customer base, which is about 1 million users, are using at least one Microsoft product. So that really was a big thing we wanted to push to serve our existing customer base. The second thing is what you're showing on the screen here is Microsoft is an absolutely huge ecosystem for us. And as a company, as we want to look to deliver more value to future customers, this is a great place for us to add an integration. Today, as John and Zach talked about, when you're looking to digitize processes for your business, it has to be an integrated tech stack. And we look at that with Formstack. We want to make sure that we do have great integrations built into an ecosystem like Microsoft that has a big upside for us with the large customer base. 95% of Fortune 500 companies are choosing Microsoft, over 1 million businesses, in the millions here of subscribers. This is a great place for us to tap into to bring our top of line products, Forms, Docs, and Sign to serve. And I'd say the last thing I would say too is when we looked at the market with the Microsoft, they didn't really have a great answer for data collection. Looking at Microsoft Forms, a good product but has some limitations versus our Forms product that's been around since 2006 that we're able to bring to the market. Doc generation that's dynamic, that automates workflow, didn't really have a tremendous answer there. So we really felt like we could add a lot of value here to the ecosystem for Microsoft users.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit to the differences between Formstack and Microsoft Forms? Because for so long, we were trying to make that work for so many of our clients, and it's just not. It really isn't there. But I'd love for you to speak.
Yeah. Some of the things we've heard so far here around the comparison, really Microsoft Forms is more of a survey tool. So reaching out to people to fill out a survey, basic field types to collect data, it's a good fit. But when you're needing more complex things like conditional logic, A/B testing, collecting payments, needing higher compliance on that data collection, Microsoft Forms is not really a great solution for that. Or like multi-step forms can be a limitation there as well. So those are some of the basic things that we saw. And then taking that data, generating a document, automatically getting it signed were things that weren't possible through that solution either. Where Formstack, we can do all of those things plus more.
I think it was Zach that said it on another call that we were on, that it's crazy that the company that created Microsoft Word doesn't have a document creator. So I do think you guys filled a very big gap there. So that's great.
Hey, Taylor, it's Zach. I'm still here. I'm jumping back on. You trying to get me in trouble?
Probably. Maybe. And were you about to say something?
You're trying to stir up some controversy. I see.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the other benefits of Formstack, and I think we'll get into it when we start going through some of the forms that we're going to highlight, but is that the offline capabilities of Formstack. So a lot of our clients need to capture data and may not be online due to either security restrictions or there's just no cell service or connectivity available. And the Formstack forms actually allow you to capture that when you're offline, and then it'll sync right away when it gets back online. And I think that for a lot of our clients, whether you're in construction or manufacturing, you have different needs, but you need that data to be captured one time and not have to worry about losing it after you get it, because when you walk away from it, you forget some of that stuff, right? Or you jot it down on a notepad. And so this really allows you to have the flexibility for the offline opportunities.
Yeah, great point. And we've seen this since we've rolled out this integration here about a month ago. Really good feedback for that feature. We do have an application that's iOS and Android friendly there. So those folks that are out there providing services in areas where there may not be phone connectivity or internet connectivity, with this application, you can definitely collect all that information on those forms. It's stored on the device. And as soon as you hit internet connectivity, that's going to send and kick off those flows here within your Microsoft system. So definitely we've seen some great adoption due to that.
Hey, Taylor, can you switch to the next slide? I think we're gonna, this is one of my favorite slides. So Forrester did some research on automation in the last year, and they identified that almost 500 million applications will be built by 2023. And those are any kinds of applications. Those are really just automation applications. It's not necessarily Microsoft applications, but just in general. And these applications are asking the questions of how do we improve efficiency? How can we improve turnaround time? And how can we streamline things so that we improve the quality of life for people overall? And the Forrester study found that when you use Power Automate flows, it greatly improves operations and opportunities, leading to 25.1% faster turnaround, 27.5% fewer errors, and 26,000 or over 26,000 hours saved per year. And this study found also that for most companies, that was millions of dollars saved or added back to the bottom line over 3 years. And many of those companies also saw anywhere from 3 to 20% growth in revenue and margin over that time. And remember, this is all because of the ability to capture that information and have it go through the different user systems. And I think, too, another thing that's so great about these automating these processes and then having them flow somewhere else is that data collection piece of it. So with Formstack, you're collecting data on their side, and then you can flow that into Power BI or through a Power Automate. It's not just saving time or saving money, but it's also allowing companies to start making better decisions and giving them insight so that they can start making data-driven decisions, like I was going to say. Gabe, go back real quick. Sorry, Taylor. There you go. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, I was going to say additionally, and so a lot of people see this and they think job reduction. And it's really honestly what the research is showing is that it's not job reduction. It's actually allowing people to do a lot more value-added activities. And so they're actually providing more value while they're saving dollars for the company, and those people are able to redirect their focus on truly improving the experience, whether it's in a client service area or whether it's just pure operations of the team. And the communications become so much more streamlined because everybody has that one source of truth from the data, so they're all operating off of the same information and they're not having disparate disconnects when it comes to that. So that's one of the really huge values as well.
This is incredible data here, and if I can just share a quick testimony, before I joined the Formstack family here, I was a business owner, maybe like a lot of you here in the audience. I was in the waste, recycling, and construction industry, and was really scared of technology and adopting it. We had paper-based everything, manual processes, and we ended up getting acquired by the second largest waste removal company in the world, Advanced Waste Disposal. And after the deal was done and the dust had settled, I'd asked, why did you see us as such a good opportunity? And they shared, you guys had great sales processes. We won't be able to match what you guys did in the field, but we're going to take our software package, implement it, and we're going to increase your margins by 15%. That was a very painful moment for me to realize that. And my resistance to technology, and I learned that lesson and got into software, led me to Formstack here. And it's a great testimony we can bring to our clients now to not make that same mistake, because that was over $100,000 a year mistake of me not adopting technology into my system just with the Formstack suite, let alone Microsoft and other products.
Yeah, it's huge what it can do to revenue generation and obviously increasing margin. The other thing I loved, and I feel like, Ann, you were kind of getting into this, is that it gets people back to what they love to do on a day-to-day basis. And I think when you automate processes, you often end up having a huge impact to culture within the company that impacts everyone at every level. You have people who become a lot more happy with their day-to-day jobs because they're not entering in manual data. They're not having to do something that they don't feel like is part of something that they're providing value to. And I know in one case recently, we were actually talking to a Formstack client and we're discussing removing some of the manual data entry and giving managers insight into the projects that they were overlooking. And just in doing that alone, that would mean that this manager now had insight into what his employees were doing. Employees would be happy because they're not entering in this data, and they're happier because they don't feel like they're being micromanaged. So that's kind of a fun little conversation that we had very recently, but I think overall reduces stress for everyone, right? So, Taylor, can you switch to the next slide? Thank you. So this next slide is just a really simple image that shows you what SeedSpark can do with Formstack. And as I've mentioned a couple of times on the call, we can work with Microsoft. So we can take all the solutions from Formstack, the form signatures and document creation tool, and we can move those, flow those into any of the Microsoft applications. So that could be anything from Power BI, Teams, SharePoint, et cetera, you name it. And what we're trying to do here again is save you time and money without having to create a custom application. That's a really big piece of this. Or we can take the Formstack, can you go back real quick? Sorry, Taylor. Okay, or we can take the Formstack applications and connect them to a custom application or even your current ERP or CRM, anything that may be specific to your business or industry. And again, what we're wanting to do here is meet your business needs and business processes. So really we can go either way with this. And Gabe, real quick, do you mind speaking to some of the integrations that Formstack has, just kind of out of the box, I guess?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Addie. And a big component of our product is integrations, because our customers do want to send data to multiple different applications within their business. So Formstack has just over 200 different integrations today that range from CRMs like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics through this integration, HubSpot CRM, Zoho, project management tools like Monday.com, Asana, others, marketing automation tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact and others. We also have integrations within our Forms product here to help you to collect payments. 9 different payment gateways like PayPal and Stripe, or calendaring systems where you can invite people to schedule on your calendar, can be easily embedded on Forms. So, and then we integrate through iPaaS solutions like Power Automate, Zapier, and others, where we can take those integrations really into the thousands. So folks that are using our applications, they can push that data, they can receive data from almost any of their software products there.
Yeah. And I know you kind of briefly mentioned the Salesforce integration. We have a few clients I know that are probably on this call. And I know this is one of your largest integrations as well. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So all the products that we looked at here today, Forms, Docs, and Sign, have an integration there to Salesforce. So if you're using Salesforce, we can help you collect data, get it into your system to create new records, kick off workflows within Salesforce, allow you to click a button in Salesforce and generate your documents, get them signed, and then push them back into Salesforce to be stored. Another product that we have is a native application in the App Exchange in Salesforce that can be downloaded into Salesforce. It's a native form builder where you're actually building forms using Salesforce fields. Really cool product there. And the last thing I'll say on Salesforce, and this is brand new news that we can share here on the call, is that Salesforce just chose Forms for Salesforce as their own form solution for their needs there internally. So pretty big. We're pretty excited about that. Salesforce choosing us for all their form and data collection needs as a company.
That's awesome. Congrats. Yeah. Oh, it looks like there's a question. Hold on.
Hey, yeah, we had one question in the YouTube chat. Brett came and says, I saw a mention about payment collection. Can someone cover if that's just integration with other apps, or if we could securely collect info if we utilize our own payment system?
Yeah, great question, Sam. I can address that. So we have 9 different payment gateways that can be added to a form, like Stripe and PayPal. You do have to have an account with them, and you'll connect that within the form to collect payments. If you have a payment that we don't integrate with, you can use our API to try to set something up custom, and the SeedSpark team would be great to talk with about making that set up for you.
Thanks, Gabe. Taylor, we can go to the next slide. So this last diagram that we have here just shows how simple the integrations with Microsoft can be. We'll go into use cases in just a moment so you guys get a lot better idea, more tangible ideas of how this will all function through Formstack and Microsoft. But basically, what we're doing here, we have the forms, we have the documents, and we have the sign. Again, SeedSpark just creates a quick connection into any of the Microsoft tools that you're looking to flow that information or that data to. Easy things can be as simple as documents signed by a client automatically go into SharePoint, which then show up in Teams a lot of times, or a form that's filled out and updates Microsoft Planner to ensure projects continue to move along. So those are really simple examples, and there's obviously a lot more, and we'll get more into those in the use cases. Taylor, I think we can move along to those. Awesome. Gabe, this one was your use case, so I'll have you go through it.
Yeah, be happy to. So this is for those of you folks that are out there in the services industry, this will apply to you. We were working with a tire company, a road service tire company up in Canada. And what they do is they were working with big rigs that got flat tires. They would send out a service person. They would go and change the tire there. They were using Salesforce as their CRM. And a part of their process was that they needed to take a picture of the tire that was blown and then a picture of the tire that was fixed. So they had evidence and proof. Before they started using Formstack, this was a very manual process. The roadside assistant was taking pictures on the phone, and then that picture needed to be emailed back to the office and then uploaded to Salesforce. It was very manual. It was easy for this person not to email that picture, and pictures were lost and they were needed for completion of the project there. What they did is as a solution, they used our Forms for Salesforce product here to allow customers to go out there, allow roadside assistants to be able to use our form on their mobile device and snap a picture, upload that to the form, and then hit submit. That automatically got sent back to the appropriate record in Salesforce with the picture, with the information around the project, and kicked off other processes there. They were also using SharePoint, so that was uploading that picture into SharePoint with them at the same time. The other component was that sometimes where they were changing these tires, there was no cell phone service, there was no internet connectivity, so they needed offline data collection. And with our iOS and Android application, they were able to collect that data on the device, and then when they did hit the connectivity, it uploaded all that information automatically into Salesforce. So really cool example. And the last thing I'll say on this is the tire company, pretty large company in Canada, they were going through the buy process with Salesforce, and this component of it, Formstack Forms, being able to take a picture, was a big selling point for them, because this was a core component to their business and a pain point that was easy enough for their roadside assistants to work with. So really cool use case.
I think this one's another one.
All right, great. Yeah, so the second use case we have here is focused on manufacturing. We've seen so far since we've released the integration here to Power Automate, a lot of interest here from our manufacturing clients. One use case that's come up is the need to do daily inspections on all the equipment there. It's something that OSHA requires to make sure that things are upkept and everyone's safe working on the different machines. This process, again, for a lot of manufacturing plants was super manual. A lot of these plants are still on paper-based forms. They're going around with a clipboard, they're writing things down, checking check boxes, etc. They turn in that paper back to the office. They're manually updating the information, scanning the document, and getting it into their system of record, which was SharePoint in this example as well. So very manual, double, sometimes triple data entry here, a lot of risk for error. From a solution standpoint, they used our Formstack form, where they could have their folks go through on an iPad or their iPhone and just check boxes that they check certain things for a certain device for their daily logs. When they hit submit, that automatically would upload any screenshots or data into their systems of record that they were using. So really cool use case. And then the last point, again, comes back to that offline data collection. A lot of manufacturing plants don't have great cell reception or internet connectivity out there on the lines. So our iOS Android app offline data collection component was key for them to give them that insurance that they would be taken care of if they have spotty internet for that day.
The next is a client that SeedSpark actually has, and they're in manufacturing as well. And what we were seeing is that they had 2 people who were sitting in customer service, actually getting email requests from clients for their orders, and then having to also email and call the clients on anything that was happening with the product as it was being created or delivered to the client. So it was a very manual process. And what you do here is implement Formstack forms, and that captured the order for the customer. And then through a Power Automate flow, that information went straight into Dynamics, and then provided both the client and their end user client and internal insight into what was happening with the supply chain. I kind of love this example specifically because Dynamics is really a robust system that allows you not just to, once an order goes in, but to see where it is in the supply chain, but also it also makes things a lot simpler. So if you get an email back from Dynamics saying what the order number is, you can see exactly just by hovering over the number exactly what's happening with that product. And the nice thing too is, like, because of the Formstack forms capturing that data, you now have forecasting for that specific client in what they're going to be ordering, month to month or even year to year. And so that's a really great use case for this, is, being able to have the insight, not just to client data from the supply chain perspective, but again, also from the business side where they're looking at forecasting and being able to model that on a year-to-year basis. We can go to thanks. This is actually a client that came to us through Formstack. They're in conservation and management organization. What they needed to do was be able to create forms very simply. They have these very long contracts today that have a lot of questions and requires somebody just to sit there and do this on a day-to-day basis. This is actually one person's job. And then they have that form then sent over to the client signs it, and then it comes back into SharePoint. Well, using Formstack forms, it made it super simple. You collect the answers to questions, it creates the document to build the contracts, and then goes back through Power Automate to go put it in the correct folder in SharePoint. They also use Teams very extensively. So the next stage of this project for this specific client will be looking at creating lists within the Microsoft Teams application, so they can actually see the status of each contract and where it is in the project phase. So that's a really nice use case there. Gabe, this is an
Yeah, last but not least here, construction. This is a really cool use case that came up during our beta testing here with a construction firm up in Canada again. Their need was to be able to report and take pictures when there's an accident on a job site. The process that they had in place was super manual. It was hard to manage too because they had a lot of contractors, which different people coming on site and didn't have Microsoft user access to a lot of these tools they were using. They needed to take a picture, collect some information, and then ultimately get the picture stored in SharePoint and the data sent over and stored in SharePoint lists. So the rest of the departments could take that accident through the process. Also, the offline data collection, being that construction sites are in places with poor cell signals and internet connectivity, was a component to this one as well. What we're able to come in and provide was a simple Formstack form so that they could easily collect data offline. They could snap a picture there on their device, upload it to the form, and they integrated through Power Automate to SharePoint and SharePoint List. So the picture went into SharePoint, to the correct folder, which is easy to set up. And then a new item was created in the SharePoint list. This was a large company, so everyone instantaneously could access that information around the company to make sure that everything was taken care of in a quick manner, since this was an accident on site, to make sure everyone's taken care of. So really, really cool use case, and we've had a couple other firms that have also expressed interest in moving with us at the moment on this.
Thanks, Gabe. I think it's time in this presentation to, let Brandon Billstrand and Brandon Batten start talking through some of the demos that they'll be working through and talking through what you guys can do with your data. So I'll let them take over. And if there are any questions, again, feel free to put those.
Fantastic. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Gabe, and to everyone else that's presented so far today. I am Brandon Billstrand. I'm a solutions engineer here at Formstack. I'm joined by Brandon Batten, the lead developer for SeedSpark. So we're going to take a look at doing more with your data in the realm of not only Formstack and Microsoft, but also even external to that too. So if we could go to the next slide here, I like to think of doing more with your data in two primary buckets. The first of those is going to be taking that data, like some of the other presenters have talked about today. Take data, you need to collect that data and ingest it into other tools. So in the Microsoft space, very common use cases there are going to be form data into SharePoint list, Excel 365, Dynamics, Planner, and any of those 400 other possible integrations through Power Automate. And really in the back of our minds here as well, highlighting that comment that Anne made about automation through all of this can lead to so many efficiencies that you can gain in putting that data to use into your workplace tools. If we go to the next slide here, the next bucket that I like to think of doing more with your data is in document generation. So how can I take data that I already have in my workplace tools and actually put that to use, generate documents, send that out for e-signature, and really the sky is the limit as far as where we can pull this data from. So of course, very simple example is I want to generate a contract from Dynamics CRM, but maybe you have somebody who wants to pull data from SQL Server or Azure DB. There's a lot of other possibilities with taking that data that you already have and actually doing very cool things with it from a document generation standpoint, and really using that power to automate these flows from within the Microsoft ecosystem. Now, to get things started, I will go ahead and walk us through a very simple example of both of these buckets. We'll start by seeing how I can take form data from Formstack and place that into Dynamics CRM. And then we'll also show how we can generate documents from that data. And then after that, I'm going to pass it over to Brandon Batten, and he has some pretty amazing complex examples to walk us through from the broader lens as we look into those buckets as well. So I will go and share my screen now. Just a second here. Excellent. Is everyone able to see my Formstack form here for record creation?
I think we're good, Brandon.
Fantastic. So this is going to start us off into that first bucket of doing more with our data, of taking data that we need to collect, routing it through Power Automate, and in this scenario, storing that data into Dynamics CRM. Now, from this form, from a demo perspective, I'm able to actually go ahead and select what type of record I'd like to create. A very powerful feature here is I could do all of this record creation from within a single flow within Power Automate. Now, I just chose to select an account record in this particular example here today. Now, let's go ahead and create a record for Batten Group LLC and attach my phone number here. And when I click submit, what this is going to do is through the Formstack Power Automate connector, we are sending this data into Power Automate and then automatically creating a new account record within my Dynamics instance. So if we actually launch into Dynamics CRM, and I do a refresh on my account records here, you'll see in our very first row now, we have the Batten Group LLC automatically created as a brand new account within my dynamic CRM accounts entity. Now, to demonstrate some of the other things that we can do from a bi-directional standpoint of Formstack here, is if I go ahead and refresh my form, you'll notice I can also choose to create a contact. Now, one of the features that Formstack offers is something called a smart list. Simplest way to think of that is an account level listing of a data set. So you'll notice under account name, I have a listing of all of my accounts from within Dynamic CRM. And you'll notice that the most recent account that we added is now an available option within my smart list. So we were able to take our form data, create that record in my account entity, and then dynamically update my smart list options to include that newly updated account. So what this allows you to do is if I were to enter a contact now, I could automatically associate this into this Batten Group LLC account record. So it gives you a lot of power to automate your processes here from a Formstack perspective and also within Microsoft. Now, what I'd like to jump into next is really that second bucket of doing more with your data, of the document generation side of things here. Now, within that realm, there's a number of different ways to actually initiate that process. The first of which is going to be through a manual button click within my Dynamics system here. So you can see I'm currently on my opportunity record, and I've selected an individual record here. Now, within Dynamics CRM, you have the flow button here that you can actually work with. And you'll notice that I have one for merge document. Now, this is a custom flow within Power Automate that we configured to essentially act as a trigger for document generation. Now, when I launch into this merge document flow, what it's going to do is actually display a couple of inputs that I've designed on this flow. You'll notice that I have toggle switches here to just essentially choose exactly what type of document I would like to create. Now, you have full control over what these toggles are going to be. But the main point to take home here is that if I choose to generate the quote, I can use this selection to actually pick the proper document type, document template that I wish to send my data into. So if we actually run this flow here, what I've done is I'm taking the data from this opportunity record and I've passed that into my document template and actually routed it through e-signature as well. So if I hop into Formstack Sign, we'll notice here that I have a document that's grabbed information from that record. So it pulled my employee name, it pulled the account that was correlated to that opportunity with the Billstrand Brewing account there. We were able to grab the actual total opportunity amount in this particular instance. But the main point being is that through a very simple button click, I was able to drive exactly which document template we were creating. Now, that's not the only way to kick off that document generation process. You can automate that as well through essentially watching for updates or creations to occur within a particular entity. So for example, on this opportunity object here, if I actually navigate into this, I can choose to watch maybe the stage and say, once I've clicked develop proposal and I save that record, for an example, I could actually have a flow automatically recognize this and automatically generate a proposal in this particular scenario. So really the automation potential with Formstack documents and Microsoft products is very, very large. You can not only do this in Dynamics, you can do this in SharePoint and Planner and a lot of other tools. And I think Brandon Batten is now going to walk us through some of those more complex scenarios of ways that we can actually work with Power Automate and Formstack. So I will go ahead and stop sharing and let Brandon take over.
Awesome. Thanks for taking that off, Brandon. Yeah, so let me start driving here, and I'm going to go into a lot of the different use case scenarios that we've kind of demoed when John was talking about the healthcare application demo and some of the other applications that need bidirectional communication. So What we're going to start off with is this flow. This is basically the powerhouse of Microsoft, so I'm going to focus primarily on Microsoft products throughout this entire demo. And the first one I have is simple record creation. So a lot of the time people just want to add a row into their an Excel inside of SharePoint. And we can get that to happen simply by making sure that we have everything connected up, right? So right now, this form is going to connect over to an Excel record. I have already pre-filled it out, so we can just kind of submit it. What that's going to do, that Power Automate flow is going to kick that off and insert that record into an Excel file. So right here is just updated at the very bottom. And one of the things I want to highlight with the power of using your data is that after you put something in Excel, a list, or anything like that, you can automatically start using Power BI. So I can start doing data analytics. I can start grabbing particular information about this exact Excel file. So that's one use case example of taking your data, ingesting it, putting it somewhere inside of SharePoint, and then maximizing it with some analytics. So that's a very simple example. The next example we have is a little bit more complicated. So this one is an intake form flow where I get a submission from Formstack, but then I want to create a SharePoint item for a list, and I also want to create a planner item. So I want to do a couple things with assigning people to it, making sure all the details come over from the form, and tackling it from that perspective. So if I actually go to the planner, you'll see that it's got some stuff on it. You'll see that I have some stuff over here as well on this list. But if I go to this R&D that I've pre-filled, and I submit this on over, that flow is going to kick off, and I'm going to start getting a new planner task showing up here, and one in my list. So I'm just going to wait for those to come on over. Takes a couple seconds just to make sure it all gets over. There you go. It showed up in lists first, and planner will come next. I'm pretty sure it's probably somewhere near the bottom. Oh. It may be taking a while for this one to update. That's fine. We'll move on to the next one. Anyways, it's there inside a planner or list. Planner will update in a minute. It takes a little bit longer. The next one I want to highlight is an intake. So everyone does intake of some type with a client or customer. It doesn't matter who it is, even if it's internal. We all do some type of intake. So what I've developed here is a form submission that'll grab all our data over. It'll actually assign someone and actually grab a user from my organization and then assign them to a list task. So if I go here, this is designed to be a customer intake form. So I'm just grabbing some basic company information, their name, position, email, and a little bit about the services they're interested in from SeedSpark and some other notes, basically. Once that kicks on over, I have this list, which is basically a sales pipeline demo. The record intake will pop up in here, like so. And the cool thing about that is there's a couple attributes that are important to note here. So I can say, okay, I received this lead at a certain time. There's a section for proposal signed at, proposal sent at. The reason why those are important is then I can say, okay, BI, how long did it take for someone to sign a proposal on average based upon when it was sent? Or how long did it take from a lead being received to enter a certain stage of the engagement? But if I want to take this a step further, I can say, okay, well, I have this lead now. I have enough information to send them a services agreement, for instance. How do I go ahead and do that? Well, I made a flow to basically watch for a status change in my list. So this is exactly what Bill was saying before with automating and waiting for something to update on like a Dynamics record. It's the same process here for lists. And as you can see, I can say, okay, what value is my engagement at? And I can put a bunch of different automations here. So I could put one for every single status that I could want an automation for. So if I go back over here and I say, okay, I'm going to say I want to send a proposal. It's going to update that status, and it's going to kick off this flow. Now, while that's kicking off, there's a couple things that's going to happen. I'm going to get a Teams notification because that's part of this. It hasn't come through yet, but we'll wait on it. But while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and show part of the form merge that's actually really important to a lot of clients, because I know when I have a lot of clients that have these really nice custom forms that they want to have data merged into. You don't want to break that. So the great thing is you can edit in Office. So this is something that we didn't see earlier, but I can actually just take a Word document and I can just start editing and pre-filling where I want data to show up. And the great thing about this is it'll show me what the last edit was or what previous edits were. So there's a little bit of auditing there. So I can always make sure that, okay, we're going to make sure this value now turns to this for this year, because you can see the date it was changed. So there's a little bit of manipulation you can do there. I'm going to switch over to my email, and you can see now that there's a document signed. So if I go into this document sign, it actually has the date that we specified, the company, Batten Group LLC. We use the same one. If you go down here, there's also the quote number that was highlighted, but I could just go to sign it. So if I sign this in 2 different places, you see it brought in all my information from that document, and I can submit. So on the submission, I also have a flow that's watching for that as well. So what it's going to do is it's going to wait for that document to be done signing. It's then going to convert that entire document into a PDF and submit that into my SharePoint. And also, it's going to send me a notification to my teams letting me know everything that happened on that. But it'll also update this list. So if I refresh this list really fast, you see the engagement is now closed because I've signed the document. If I go on over, I can say the proposal was sent at this date and time, and it was signed at this date and time. But if I now go over to my SharePoint, it also created a folder for that client because they didn't need one before, but now they have one. And inside that, there's a legal documents file, and here's their agreement that they signed. Now, if I go over to my teams, it's also pinged me with all the information, saying the client, they signed at this date and time, the client information, internal info. It can actually tie straight into my team's profile from who was the person who sent the proposal. And I also have some actionable items I can now take on that same thing. So I can go and view that contract that was signed. So if we scroll down, you actually see the signatures and then the certification at the bottom. But you can also kick off an email that's already pre-filled out with some information to start the next conversation with that client. So those are some complicated workflows, and obviously they can be expanded upon. This is just the beginning of what you can start to do with it. So imagine having Power Automate listen for every little activity that's going on in your Microsoft ecosystem and having something data-driven happening from that. So you no longer have to have the manual communication or send an email. You can just focus on what's important with your business and have everything else just flow through it. That pretty much is the last demo I have to show. I think we're ready to enter Q&A.
Awesome. And I know that I speak for both the SeedSpark and Formstack team. Brandon, everyone loves you. If you could see the chat that we're having internally, we just love everything you guys talk about. You guys are rock stars, and I think the demos that you showed are hugely impactful and powerful to so many businesses that we work with. So thank you guys again. We're going to enter Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, again, just throw those in the chat and we'll wait a few minutes. I know we're getting close to time. It's almost 4:30. So
we did have one that I wanted to go ahead and kick things off with that goes back to the medical utilizations. Brett also asked, could a patient take a picture in line with the application to submit? And this was kind of also in line with the HIPAA compliance question as well.
Yeah, I can touch on that as well. Yes, they would be able to take a picture with their cell phone. So that upload box does allow them, while they're in the field or, of course, in line waiting, to take pictures and upload things right away. A lot of times that use case really falls on things like medical insurance cards, ID cards, like our government issued driver's licenses, things like that that need to be uploaded into the systems. So you do have that ability to use your phone and take those pictures right away and upload it into that form.
Awesome, fantastic. And of course, Brett, you can follow up in the chat if you have an additional. If you want to follow up in the chat, you can have an additional question as well. But one that also came in later goes into the healthcare providers as well. And has anyone used it to submit a prescription to a pharmacy? That's one of the utilizations we were curious about.
Another great use case. I would say that is probably one of our larger use cases for pharmacies, is really getting those prescriptions, medication refill requests taken care of electronically and pushing it into their systems of record. So that is an ability that we do have as well, and it's probably one of our larger use cases in the healthcare market.
Awesome, fantastic. And of course, the VOD of the live stream will be up tomorrow. And so if any more questions come along throughout the week, I'll be sure to connect them with the appropriate question answer and get those questions taken care of.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We're so happy that you were able to come to this event and learn more about the partnership between SeedSpark and Formstack. Again, we're just so excited for all the possibilities that this opens up for so many of our clients. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your account manager at SeedSpark, or reach out directly to hello@seedspark.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you very quickly. Thanks again, everyone. I know, again, I speak for the SeedSpark team that we're so thrilled to have Formstack on this team, and thank you guys for your time in presenting. So we'll see everyone soon.